Welcome to Vibe Querying with MCP, the show where we don't just query data, we vibe with it. I'm Jared, the one asking, how does it work?
And I'm Marie, the one asking, what does it mean for the business? And before we jump into today's episode, we're going to give you an overview of the technology we'll be talking about.
That's right, and it all starts with Model Context Protocol, or MCP for short. This is a standard protocol that's designed to connect your AI models to external data for actions, for reporting, for querying, getting real-time business data in your AI, and allowing you to interact with it conversationally.
And what we'll be using today to use the Model Context Protocol is CData MCP servers. And so it's something we released in beta really about 8 weeks ago today. It's the way to connect your enterprise data sources like Salesforce, NetSuite, and others to your favorite LLM like Claude.
Yeah, and so that brings us to this concept of vibe querying. Vibe querying is like vibe coding, but instead of creating apps or SaaS platforms or whatever, we're using natural language with AI to ask questions of our data, explore it, and gain insights, and maybe even take actions. You get intimate knowledge of the data schema, those things, those processes that used to take these complex data pipelines, familiarity with SQL, or the structured query language of databases. All of that can be done with CData's MCP servers and your favorite LLM.
And that is what we will be doing in this episode and all of our previous ones, is that we take Model Context Protocol, CData MCP servers, and we do some vibe querying on a specific use case for a specific function. And today we'll be covering that with Brooke.
Yeah, so today's episode is vibing for Google Ad Performance Analysis. It's all about analyzing our Google AdWords to figure out how we can optimize our search engine marketing program. So we're asking questions of our Google AdWords data. We're taking the point of view of Brooke, our search engine marketing manager.
And we have mentioned Brooke already, so I think we stole some steam for our intro, but thank you for joining us today, Brooke. Brooke is Brooke Reese. She's our marketing manager for SEM and digital advertising. Welcome to the show, Brooke. Are you ready to vibe with us?
I am. Thank you, guys.
All right, so I think what we're going to do is start with showing how easy it is to install the MCP server. And then from there, we'll showcase what it looks like to actually ask questions. And that's where Brooke will get to shine. So hopefully in my downloads folder, there is an installer for the Google AdWords MCP. So just runs like every other installer. You click next. I wonder if Maria's tired of me making the joke about not reading the EULA like you never do. Clicking through, this is going to install the software libraries that are required to run. I've got Claude installed and running. Classic Jared move. So we'll exit that. We'll retry. So it's doing some configuration work with your Claude instance running on your desktop. So Claude has to be closed in order for it to work. Opens up the help documentation in case you need it. And then the last step of the installation is configuring that connection. So it's going to open up a configuration wizard. I have a Google Ad connection pre-configured. I think I'm going to have to give it the client customer ID as a part of the conversation, but you can add it here if you need to, if you already know it. I'll have to look that up. That'll be fun. I can do that while Maria's talking or something. So anyway, it's been installed. We're ready to go. So let's open up Claude. And then happy Wednesday to you too, Claude. It is loading our MCP servers, so I'm going to give it a second. Nope, still loading. I've got a bunch installed because we've been doing too many of these episodes. There we go. All right, so we can see Salesforce, which we were talking about looking at, but we're not going to do that. But we do have Google Ads and the list of tools that are available here. These are the generic tools, and I'm going to take one quick second to talk a little bit about how it works. We present a tabular model of all of the services that we connect to, and this makes it really easy for Claude or any LLM to work with because they have a native understanding of how databases work, how to explore their structure, and how to get information out of them. But at this point, I think that's enough of the how does it work. Let me make sure I jump into our vibe querying project, and let's go. So Brooke, what are we trying to find out today? What's the goal? What's the first question you want to ask of Claude?
Sure, yeah. So a lot of what I do is making sure that I have proper budget allocation based on our key performance indicators like conversion generation, conversion rate, and CPA. So thinking we can start with getting Claude to figure out the proper budget allocation by campaign based on our recent performance.
Okay, so just fill that. Let me do this. What is it? Customer ID equals this. Let me do Claude here for ads. All right, and then yeah. So give me a good snappy question for that.
Sure. How about try where should we reallocate budget for maximum impact?
Oh gosh. All right.
Starting with the hard hitting question, Brooke.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
All right. So it did a little bit of exploration when I gave it the customer ID, read the instructions from the server, which tells the LLM how to work with it, and then it gave us the list of tables, which is all of the endpoints, objects, collections available. So we'll go with that first question. Where should we reallocate budget for maximum impact? So I'm really curious because I don't know a whole lot about Google Ads. I'm curious what it's going to dig into. So it's identified things. One of the great things about the way that our MCP servers work is it makes it really easy to explore. So when Claude makes a mistake in how it queries something, it can just go ask for that information again to get the query right. So,
And I think we did GA4 on a previous episode, which to me is kind of a similar source to Google Ads, like a wealth of data, a wealth of information, but very hard to dig into if you don't have intimate knowledge of how the data is structured and set up and spend a lot of time in it. So Brooke, I don't know how you feel about it since you are an expert in this space, or kind of how you would normally go about trying to do this type of reporting.
Sure. Yeah. So for me, it's the way that this can help me is it's just crunching a lot of data. So having this be able to say, let me look at the historical performance from the perspective of multiple different metrics to get a list of what's performing best is really helpful. And I think potentially combining this with an analysis of actual traffic to your website and engagement metrics there will make this even better and give us more insight. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yes, it does. And I think, with a lot of these episodes, and again, we've done prior episodes for other functional areas, just the ability to shortcut that process, even if Claude doesn't always get it 100% right on the first time, is incredibly helpful because it saves so much time. And so it looks like we've got Claude starting to write things out. So it looks like Claude just finished up its reporting. So let's see what Claude gave us today.
yeah,
So starting from the top.
nice little executive summary.
Yep. And just for the audience to reiterate, we've obscured both customer names, and it conveniently also obscures CData, as well as also does a multiplier on any specific spend number. So both for the audience and for Brooke, what you see is a little bit off from the real world, but I think is directional. So I think it looks like it's giving us just some summary at the top, and then it's breaking it out by a campaign tier. So high spend, medium spend, underfunded campaign. Got it.
What do you want to drill into, Brooke? Where do you want me to scroll and linger?
Sure. This is definitely very interesting to me too, just to see like what's spending the most and if this thinks it's the proper allocation, meaning that we are getting results out of it. And it's nice that in this little chart, it has like the recommendation right there. I think a little bit down, there is a couple of more recommendations for the high potential underfunded campaigns. So it's nice that it gives you like a very direct number, like you should increase budget by X amount. What I think potentially would be interesting if we could get this to give us a summary of what changes we should make to the current budget and what performance it expects out of the new budget. Like if we increase this campaign budget by 40%, how many more conversions are we going to get? So maybe if we can get like a table of budget change and then expected conversion improvement, that would be interesting.
Okay, so what if we do, like, if we implement the tier 3 changes, this is me not being a subject matter expert. So what are we looking for again here? What conversion changes?
Yeah, what conversion changes should we expect?
I'm going to be forceful here. Should
there you
we
go.
expect?
Perfect.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
while
cool.
thinking, could you define just CPA and ROAS for our non-marketing folks in the audience?
Sure. CPA is cost per acquisition. So in this case, we're just essentially looking at like a cost per conversion. So somebody performing a desired action on our website and what we're willing to pay for that. And then ROAS is the return on ad spend. So the number of dollars we get out in revenue versus what we spend. So ideally, we want to be above 1 there because that means we're getting more than we're putting in with spend. So
makes sense.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's building us some tables. So this is the performance baseline. And then phase 1, conservative scaling. Anything standing out there to you?
Yeah, this is great. I mean, it's a very clear idea of what we need to do with our budget, what the increase is, and what that scale is. And then I liked in the above chart that showed what we were going to get out of it as far as performance. So that gives me something to benchmark against once I make these changes and share with the larger team. This is why we're doing this. This is our expected performance out of it, and we'll continue to optimize from there.
Yeah. And what if you weren't using Claude to do this, Brooke? Like, how would you do this and like get a similar
Sure.
table?
Yeah. It would just be, again, like a lot of number crunching on my side of things, kind of thinking about what the current conversion rate and cost pers are, and then what I could potentially get out of it if I made these budget changes. So it's a lot of me in Excel doing a lot of formulas and trying to figure out what I could potentially see. Google itself does have some tools that can help you with projections, but certainly not to this level. So I could definitely come to these numbers by myself, but having somebody automate it is great and time saving for sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
And one of the things we had this on the episode that we had with Jacqueline, who explored some support case data to help build her product roadmap. And we didn't really tell Claude anything about what good looks like. And I think we see a similar thing here. Like Claude just understands this data. It understands the domain in a way that is extremely helpful for this data analysis and how we pull it out of Google Ads, which I think is really great. Like we didn't explain any of the terms to it, we didn't explain anything to it, and was able to figure that out from a combination of the seeded MCP server and obviously Claude's built-in abilities, which I think is, again, very helpful when you're trying to produce something like this.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see it. Like, I mean, I've used LLMs like for generic questions, right? Like, how could I better, strategize for content creation, or, what are best practices around knowledge-based management? And that's useful, but with Model Context Protocol, now you get to inject the context of your actual like life or business or whatever. And so now it's making all of those recommendations, like Marie said, on like real world data. So it's not this generic like best practices because it's an LLM and it's got a huge training set and it understands, AdWords and return on spend and cost per acquisition. But now it can like laser focus on specific recommendations for your specific job, which is really cool.
And let's look at let's go back up to risk factors if you don't mind, Jared. I'm curious to get
risk factors and scaling constraints.
Let's talk about audience saturation, which is, I find really interesting because this is a question, again, we ask frequently in marketing where it's like, okay, well, how big is that market? How big is that audience? Is that worth the investment for us? So I'm curious, Brooke, if you just take a quick read through those limitations on saturation, quality score impact, competition response, and a seasonal effect. Also another frequent marketing question. Like how do you think Claude did on presenting those limitations?
Yeah, I really like that they have that section too, because these are obviously some concerns that I would have too. So it's great that it outlines them here. I think the audience saturation is certainly a big deal, especially with audience targeted campaigns, which I did mention in the last slide, like those display campaigns, like we have to understand the size of our campaigns and constantly reaching the same people, and too many times you're going to start to see declines in performance there. Also interesting that it calls out quality score impact as well, which is something that can impact your cost per click and how much you end up having to spend to get those clicks on your ads. So great that it's calling out things that are a little bit deeper than what you would expect on the surface. So really, really good stuff there too.
That's great.
That's cool.
Let's see. Anything else from this response from Claude? Let's see. Implementation timeline, that's helpful.
Yeah. So I have a question, and Brooke, I mean, you could tell me whether you think it's valuable. Obviously, it's asking us to increase spend.
Yes.
I assume that you do not have an unlimited budget. So, like, what could we ask to identify like where that money could come from?
Ooh. That's interesting. So are you just talking about like reallocating from other campaigns? So saying like, hey,
so like, I mean, can we keep it that general? Do we want to see what Claude does with that? Like what campaigns could I reallocate budget from?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I think in the first one, there was some suggestions for either maintaining or decreasing budget as well. So having a summary there would be great as well.
Yeah, I mean, everybody would love to have an unlimited budget, but
Sure.
yeah. So I think what's cool here is that so this is just building artifacts. So when it like went through our Google Ads, like it got a ton of information initially, like Claude did. So it hasn't had to go back and pull live data from that initial series of questions. Like it has gotten a ton of data about our, like apparently holistically about the work that you're doing. If it's able to identify like tier 3 changes, conversion improvements, if it's able to now identify where we could be pulling budget from in order to improve these other campaigns, which is really cool and super efficient. And that is like top of mind for anybody that's using an LLM. Is like, are you paying per token? Are you paying per tool usage? Are you paying per session? Your sessions have limited lengths? Like this is all like very in the like how does it work Jared wheelhouse, but like is top of mind for anybody that's using an LLM for anything, to know that it did a really good job of getting a ton of information early. So now it can just analyze it, help build insights and things. So all right, what do we think? Go to the top, budget reallocation.
So it picked out some zero conversion campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
Does that look on track to you, Brooke?
Yeah, and I think with any of these things, you also have to understand that it doesn't have full context on something. So you do have to take your business knowledge and the knowledge of like campaigns that are potentially going to be more geared toward awareness driving, which is not necessarily going to lead to down funnel conversion activity. And then maybe you say, okay, let's not necessarily decrease budget here, but I think overall it is identifying good opportunities for us to decrease so we can fund that increase for those high performing campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Sometimes Claude doesn't always know what you want to do.
Yes.
Strategy. So
yes,
that
absolutely.
But yeah, so it looks like, sorry, the middle bucket, Jared, if you go back up, poor efficiency campaigns is another bucket, redundant competing campaigns. Yeah, so it put it into some buckets.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And I like that redundant competing campaigns information, because trying to identify places where there is cannibalization between, anybody that is deep in the weeds on SEM knows that if you kind of mess with wider keyword match types, you may have some competition between campaigns based on how Google is able to match with search queries. So it's really interesting that this is able to identify where there is cannibalization between campaigns and potentially where we should be consolidating. So that's an interesting call out that I didn't expect from this query either. So,
and I assume that's really hard to figure out from the Google Ads interface.
Yeah. I mean, you can certainly look at like search term reporting, but then you're looking at, spreadsheets with thousands of queries, and then you have to find where the overlap is between different campaigns and different downloads. So this is very helpful.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, there you go. You've got removed status campaign. So there's an immediate budget.
Yep.
It's cool that I identified those.
For sure.
All right. Any you got a last question for Claude here, Brooke, or do you have enough to go dig into?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, this has definitely surfaced some interesting stuff.
I'm curious, Brooke, if you are interested as well. So if we go back up to the potential cannibalization campaigns, or where there's overlap, and you mentioned, Brooke, on how you would try to figure this out is you'd have to go through spreadsheets of specific keywords. What do you think we could have Claude do some of that work for us if we wanted to dig into this category?
Yeah, let's see how I would phrase this. I mean, they have called it out as cannibalization here, so it could be something we do and say, could you identify areas where we see keyword cannibalization between different campaigns? See what that returns.
We'll see. Claude has been a pleasant surprise for most of our episodes, so hopefully he continues his record. Oh, it gave you likely keywords.
Nice.
Okay, I like this.
Competing. Oh, and it gave you some evidence.
I like this.
Non-competing. And a bidding. Oh, interesting. Bidding wars. Would that mean that like we're bidding against ourselves?
Essentially, yeah.
Wow.
So that would be an even better thing to call out. Like, where are we bidding against ourselves that's causing an impact on cost per click and increased spend because of it. So it's definitely nice that they're pulling that out for me.
Yeah. So Salesforce, SQL Server.
SQL servers. And I think in our business, like trying to differentiate by some of our products, like people would be searching very similar things to find different products. So like I expect there might be a little overlap, but having this call out where it's severe enough to have an impact on budget or spend and cost per click or cost per conversion is great.
Absolutely. That's great. I mean, and I think, Brooke, if you could give us an idea, either from this question or that we've explored today, like how would you take that forward? Like, are these insights interesting enough for you to act on, and kind of like, how would you think about it?
For sure. Yeah. And like I said in the beginning, kind of budget allocation is something that I look at pretty frequently to make sure that I'm funding the highest performing campaigns properly. So this would definitely be a very easy way for this analysis to be done, maybe on a more frequent basis. So could easily be a place where I get those insights that I apply on a weekly or monthly basis, and potentially adding in some of these other queries into my workflow as well. So an easy way for me to automate tasks that I already do manually.
That's great. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you, Brooke. And I think that is a wrap on today's episode of Vibe Green. So thank you so much, Brooke, for joining us today and for generally being a rock star for the marketing team.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and we do want to say thanks to all of you for watching. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days. If you want to see what your data is saying, you can hit up the free MCP server beta at cdata.com/solutions/MCP.
Or you could hang with us in our Vibe Querying subreddit or within the CData community, where we talk about queries, insights, and all the things you want to know about your data.
Yeah, so until next time, stay curious and keep vibing.